Hey there, folks. So today we'll be looking at XINYAN, the brand new fire type or pyro type claymore user, and I'm going to be looking at her talents as well as her constellations, and then I'll be showcasing some of her skill animations, etc. So without any further ado, let's take a look at her talents. Normal attack, dance on fire, pretty straightforward. It's very similar to all the other claymore users. Moving on to her E skill, which is sweeping fervor. XINYAN brandishes her instrument, dealing pyro damage on nearby enemies, forming a shield made out of her audience's passion. The shield's damage absorption scales based on XINYAN's defense on the number of enemies hit. Hitting 0 to 1 enemies grants a shield level 1, ad lib. Hitting 2 enemies grants a shield level 2, lead in. Hitting 3 or more enemies grants shield level 3, rave, which will also deal intermittent pyro damage to nearby enemies. Now, I found this explanation quite confusing, but when I looked into it, it's actually pretty simple. So basically, the first thing that I'd like to point out is her E skill is not really a skill like a spell cast. You don't deal damage with some sort of a spell cast. Instead, it's kind of like an active buff where she kind of brandishes her weapon with pyro damage, and then you can auto attack and deal pyro damage to your enemies. Now, as far as the shield is concerned, basically, as you hit more enemies, the shield becomes more powerful. This can be seen over here, skill attributes. Shield level 1 damage absorption is this much defense, and then as you move to shield level 2 by hitting more enemies, you get more defense, you get more absorption, etc. And hitting 3 or more enemies grants shield level 3, which also deals intermittent pyro damage to nearby enemies. And by that, I think they mean it grants a damage over time on your enemies, since I could see this damage over time mechanic under skill attributes, so there's that. The shield has the following special properties. When unleashed, it infuses XINYAN with pyro. It has 250% damage absorption and effectiveness against pyro damage. Nothing new here. Every single shield of different elements has the same effect, whether it's pyro, electro, geo, etc. And let's move on to her Q, which is Riff Revolution. Strumming rapidly, XINYAN launches nearby enemies and deals physical damage to them. Hyping up the crowd, the sheer intensity of the atmosphere will cause explosions that deal pyro damage to nearby enemies. Okay, so this is basically a massive nuke. Basically, she launches, you deal massive physical damage, as well as set them on fire, I guess, deal pyro damage to nearby enemies, and you send them flying, so basically knocking them back. This is the math behind the skill, and let's check out her passive skills. The show goes on even without an audience. LOL, which is pretty relevant during this pandemic. Decreases the number of enemies Sweeping Fervor must hit to trigger each level of shielding. Okay, so Sweeping Fervor, her E skill, has 3 levels, but now shield level 2 lead in, requirement reduced to 1 enemy hit. Shield level 3 rave, requirement reduced to 2 enemy hits or more. So once you unlock this talent, you only need to hit 2 enemies to get the 3rd level of the shield, which is very cool. Next passive talent is, now that's rock and roll. Characters shielded by Sweeping Fervor deal 15% increased physical damage. Okay. And the last one is probably a neutral talent. Yep. When a perfect cooking is achieved on a defense boosting dish, XINYAN has a 12% chance to obtain double the product. Okay. Let's head on to her constellations. Fatal Acceleration. Upon scoring a critical hit, increases attack speed of XINYAN's normal and charged attacks by 12% for 5 seconds. Can only occur once every 5 seconds. Okay. So I'm guessing she would benefit from a crit build, just like every other damage dealer does. Let's take a look at the next one. Impromptu Opening. Rift Evolution's physical damage has its crit rate increased by 100%. Huh. And will form a shield at shield level 3, rave when cast. Well, that's interesting because the very first constellation benefits from having more crit. And immediately the second constellation doesn't care about the crit at all. Okay. The third constellation, Double Stop, increases the level of sweeping fervor by 3. Alright. Wildfire Rhythm, sweeping fervor swing damage decreases opponent's physical resistance by 15% for 12 seconds. Okay, so this is basically a physical resistance debuff as you're attacking the target. The next one, Screaming for an Encore, increases the level of Rip Evolution by 3. Okay. And the last constellation, Rockin' in a Flaming World, decreases the stamina consumption of XINYAN's charged attacks by 30%. Additionally, XINYAN's charged attacks gain an attack bonus equal to 50% of her defense. Oh wow. Oh wow, interesting. So this character, it seems you can build this character in many different ways, and it's not straightforward at all, because one of her constellation favors crit rate, the second constellation doesn't care about crit rate at all, and the last constellation basically scales off her attack off of her defense. So yeah, I guess building her would be very interesting. Let's go ahead and take a look at her skill animations. Guys, if you like this video, smash that like button and consider subscribing, as I will be making more content on Genshin Impact. And if you have any suggestions, let me know in the comment sections below, and I'll catch you guys later.
Come a little closer.
Whatever's going on over there, looks pretty rock and roll to me.